Hello and welcome to Diverse and Inclusive Leaders, the podcast where I interview the most inspirational and thought-provoking leaders of today and unearth their unique stories of diversity and inclusion to help inspire, educate and motivate others to make the world a better place. Today, I'm absolutely thrilled to be joined by the fabulous Zareena Brown at the Britvic headquarters. Zareena is the Chief People Officer for Britvic and has been working incredibly hard rolling out various different new strategies, but putting people at the heart of all of those. Welcome, Zareena.
Layla, it's great to have you here at Britvic and be able to spend some time with you.
Thanks so much for having me and the team as well. And so tell me, you've obviously had a wealth of experience within the people function and working within global organisations. Talk to me a little bit about how you came to be where you are today.
Well, two things really, and if I go back to I guess the very beginning in terms of my family. So my father was born in India. He came over to the UK when he was 9 years old, and much later he met my mum. He worked for Tesco actually in terms of it at that time. And I guess two things, growing up with very different cultures in terms of the mix from my mum and dad created a real, I guess, awareness and passion around being inclusive. And I wouldn't have framed it that way at that time, but that's been invaluable in terms of, I guess my career. And the fact my dad worked in retail, I remember one evening as we chatted over dinner saying, what makes the biggest difference to performance, Dad, in terms of the stores you look after? And he said, it's the store manager that determines that, because that store manager engages their team and that's what ultimately makes the difference. And I think it was that sparked me to want to have a career in some way, being able to, I guess, get the best from people, and that led to a career in HR. And I have worked, my career's two halves, I'd say. The first half, a variety of retail companies, which I absolutely love that environment, being with customers and, how do you relate to everybody and, I guess, create the environment for them to thrive. And then most recently, hospitality and now FMCG, which is definitely fast moving, as it says. So a real mix in terms of different types of companies, both large scale and a stint in Asia. I was based in Singapore as well for some time. So, diverse background in terms of different companies and experiences, which has brought me to where I am today.
That's so fascinating that you were so curious at such a young age in all of the different things that were going on around you, and perhaps maybe that has influenced how you've got to the position that you are, working for a very, very well-known brand, of course, which is well known globally, and obviously seeing you kind of lead the agenda and some of the metrics that have been publicised of late. I think you've had an improvement, 33 to 39% when it comes to, just gender representation, to take one facet of the diversity and inclusion umbrella. Yes,
yeah. And that improvement has happened, in a relatively short period of time. So we've had that focus on, having great gender balance for some time over the last couple of years, but it's been recently that we've got real traction. And as I sit and reflect on what's been an amazing few years where we've had that focus, ultimately we've created and are creating a people-first environment. Now, Britvic, isn't the largest soft drinks company at all, but we're definitely, the most dynamic, I would say. And we've got, if we think about our culture, we've got a real spirit, which is, I think, twofold. One, we really care. So we care about, we care about the planet, we care about the role we play in society. Of course, we care about our brands, but first and foremost, we care about the happiness and wellness of our employees. And on the other side, as I've said, we're very dynamic. So you put those two things together, and there's just this amazing spirit at Britvic. And I think what we've done is unlock that and really created something where people, are really comfortable now. There's always more to do in terms of sharing, being themselves, and just this passion and energy around how do we create the environment where we can be at our best.
Fantastic. And you've clearly been instrumental in driving a lot of this change. And I know you mentioned before there's been a bit of a brand refresh when it comes to values and such. Talk to me a little bit about what these values now are starting to look like and some of the key pillars, which,
yes.
As you said before, clearly it's about putting people at the heart. It's about, looking at those, sustainable solutions, business for good. What are the key pillars?
So I think first of all, and Layla, you'll know this, with all the, I guess, digital world, automation happening, it's the world is changing very quickly. Then I think the start point is, I believe we need to be more human. That's always been the case. People want to make connections, felt they're understood, and that's always been important. But if anything now, it's about being more human. So I think that's the kind of backdrop to the refresh we've done. And in terms of the values, we've kept some of them because we wanted to keep what's special about Britvic. So, one of them is about acting with pace. So you think we want to make sure that we don't have complexity, that we're taking barriers away from people, and we're quick to market. So that's really important to us. Caring, is absolutely at the centre in terms of caring about the health and wellness of our employees as well. And then we talk about really owning it, which, as you'd expect, is all about integrity, the way we do things, and making sure that we've got good accountability. The one, I guess, that we've really repositioned as well, and is kind of really relevant to what we're talking about, is stronger together. And at the heart of Stronger Together, it's about us being open, collaborating, and really being able to be yourself and be inclusive. And that was always in our values, but it really comes through strongly now in terms of, we do believe that we are stronger together, and the business is stronger if we create that environment and people can truly, I guess, be themselves and come up with great ideas and great energy around those ideas.
Well, I think what you're doing is creating this platform in which actually everyone can really thrive. And the point you mentioned before there about this digital world, I couldn't agree more. It's moving so fast. That humanity, as you had said, really is what the future looks like. There's a quote I think I read the other day, and someone had said, right now, business is about brains, but in the future it will be about the heart.
Yes.
And I think, in some sense that's incredibly true, because actually this digital world, which is almost perceived as slightly less personal, in some sense, we can replicate automation, we can replicate digital growth, but we can't at this point in time, and hopefully not in the future, replicate humanity and that real sense of kind of personal emotional intelligence.
Yes, yeah.
Almost.
And I think it's those human skills, and particularly from a leadership point of view, that just will become even more valuable going forward for that reason, and actually will differentiate whether that's the experience that people have at the company and your ability to attract great talent, or ultimately the fact you're able to create better performance as a result of that. And that's really relevant for us, in terms of innovating into new growth spaces and being able to compete. Then we've got to, it's really important that we've got great talent who feel they're able to do that. So, from a leadership point of view, being able to really tune into those human attributes and be able to do that in a very skilled way is becoming more important rather than less important. Because, as you say, I think if you've got a good ability to learn, you can refresh skills and do that part. But I think that becomes a much more valuable skill going forward.
Indeed. And, we're always learning. I think, the second that we stop learning, it's probably quite a sad day, really. But I think business has clearly done very, very well. The recognition, I think, from the brand, from an external perspective, is you've got these great brands that people love, and that they certainly, think the Drench brand that I was sipping before, is, it's inclusive, and it wants to do good. Talk to me a little about, kind of the talent attraction, I guess, and what people love about coming to work for Britvic from a talent and an inclusivity perspective.
Yeah, well, I think first and foremost, we've got quite a special advantage in that, we're not huge, but we do count, and roughly we have 5,000 employees. So if you join Britvic, you do get to know everybody, so you're able to build relationships. And because of our size, I come back to being dynamic. You're in a business where you absolutely can make things happen, and that's not always the case in every business. So if you're somebody that thrives on that and growing and developing, then our kind of size and the way we do things and the fact we're dynamic, really, I think, appeals to people. And we definitely attract talent because of that. And I guess we really want to work in a way where it's not about, certain teams and functions. We're great at bringing teams together to solve problems. So again, you get to work across so many different areas. If you really want to grow and you put yourself forward to do that, we're able to just I guess set that up and build that in quite a unique way. So we have a much more dynamic rather than really structured approach. We definitely have learning and development and some programs, but I would say our key strength is we're able to do that in a much more individual and dynamic way. And I think there's something very special about Britvic in terms of those relationships. But it's becoming more competitive from a talent point of view, so we're really upping our game on what the proposition looks like, and whether it's our current talent or talent we want to attract, the ability to really show that we are an inclusive place to work and that we play our role in every way, whether that's from a D&I point of view or the role we play in society, has only become more important. And I think you have to really do it and not just talk about it in terms of attracting and retaining talent. And what I'm really pleased about is it is real. The way we've approached what we've done over the last couple of years has been through, whether it's our network groups, our D&I action groups. So it's really built into the culture as opposed to being a programme or a raft of initiatives across the organisation.
And that certainly comes across, because obviously, I had, the privilege of speaking with, a number of the leads on the ERGs, employee resource groups, for those that may not know the acronym for ERGs. But they're all incredibly engaged. And I think, you talk about kind of engagement and starting with people first, actually, it really helps keep that momentum when, individuals are sharing their own personal stories and they feel happy, safe and comfortable to do so. And I don't think, obviously Britvic is a very, very well-known business, but, businesses and people don't need to be huge in order to actually make a difference, because your point on, being able to be, almost swift and nimble and, creative, innovative, rather, that's fantastic. That's absolutely brilliant, and it keeps things almost more authentic. Because you had the I think you talked about the leadership conference, or a conference that you had done in the last couple of weeks, and there was some heavy engagement there and people sharing their personal stories, which sounds like it went down a treat.
So it'll be a standout couple of days in terms of certainly my time. And I think the reason for that is you can talk about a culture, you can describe whether it's the values or how you want to live and breathe that, but the best thing in the world is whether it's the Exco team or the senior leaders are actually showing that. And we kicked off with sharing stories, talking about the things that had made us, whether it's the leader we are today or what we wanted our people in the room to experience in Britvic. And it was just I guess it really emotionally connected. I had moments where either the hairs on my arms were standing up, or a slight tear in terms of some of the stories, and it just really had that human touch, and it felt as if the 100 or so leaders that were in that room just had a real passion for creating the best for their team and the best for Britvic, and what did we have to remove or take away or be as leaders to create that, and it's very special when you get that feeling, and it will make a big difference not only to Britvic but I guess our teams as well. And we spent some real time on our values, on our mission going forward and what that meant, and it was an invaluable conversation. And I think we only, out of the 2 days, had 2 slides with numbers on them. The rest was all about,
wow,
what did we want to have happen? How are we going to make it happen? And I've certainly not been to an event where, or been part of an event where, it wasn't about the numbers. Back to, it's about connecting with people, and you can make great things happen if you do that.
Great business comes out of that.
Yeah.
And I wish I was a fly on the wall, because I can feel the energy when you're talking about, the conference and everyone being there together.
Yes.
Last week. It sounds brilliant. And, I guess now, it's all about keeping the momentum and what's coming next, which I guess is my next question. What is in store for Britvic now when it comes to diversity and inclusion and belonging, and what are the plans now that the wheels are in motion, and we're going at pace, it feels.
Well, there's so many things. So on the back of last week, we are going out and spending time with all 5,000 employees, and we're going to do that over the next month or so, to really create, I guess, the same conversation, and that's important from a D&I point of view, because it's again bringing people at the heart of I guess who we want to be and what we want to do. So that's the first really important conversation. We are then going to spend some time over the next 6 months on our new values, and really spend time on what they mean, and whether that's in our supply chain or out in Brazil or France, and we'll be doing that in a really inclusive way, and sharing and learning from each other what difference that can make and what we experience. And then lots happening. We've got our ERGs, we've got our D&I action group, and our 6 focus areas where we've got a great plan over the next beyond 12 months in terms of things that we want to do, whether that's around building awareness, capability, but I think we've got really good momentum now, so it's about really bringing those things together.
Super. And just before we wrap up, Zareena, just a couple of questions, I guess, for you, I guess, personally, because I know there'll be plenty of people who are tuning in and watching today thinking, I'd love to be, in a position like Zareena perhaps one day, at the helm, kind of driving, people function, working for, a brand that means something. Is there any kind of advice that you might give to those out there who, are keen to be progressing their careers, or maybe want to be in a role that you have?
Well, I can only talk about what's worked for me, and I think I've always believed in possibility, first of all, and that's not just the possibility of people and the potential, but the possibility of how do you make something happen? What would it take? So I think being in that space opens up so many opportunities, whether that's about yourself, your own development, or others, or the business. And I think that the second area, or the piece of advice, is lead with heart. And I've certainly grown more confident, I guess I would say, as I've got older. I think those two things come hand in hand. But deep down, I've really, I guess, worked on a basis of leading with heart, and I would have done more of that earlier on if I had the opportunity. So my advice would be, lead with real heart. There's lots of space around the rational stuff and the numbers, but if you lead with heart, you'll connect to people, and you can, I think, make amazing things happen.
Absolutely, and it's about forming those relationships, isn't it? I hope you don't mind me asking this, but you talked about your dad so fondly, earlier on in our conversation. Did you have any role models throughout your career at all, pre getting where you are today?
I did, and a number early on in my career. I worked sports retailer, and really wanted to grow there. And there was a CEO there that I was really brave at the time and talked about the things I wanted to do and some opportunities there. And I was backed at that point in time. I think back now, how was I brave enough to have that conversation? So that stands out, and that kind of gave me a real start and boost, I guess, early on.
Boosted the confidence early on.
It did, and it showed me with some bravery and backing yourself, and not only to have the conversation but to do something very different. You do grow as a result of that. So early on, I guess just that confidence boost. I went out to Singapore and worked with a CEO there who was Jan Spitz. He was very values based. He was and that will be a standout in terms of I guess working with a leader who just had a real passion for the people agenda and themselves. Was a great leader. So certainly that stands out. And also a group HR director that I worked for who had built great relationships in the business, worked with the board in a great way. So I've learned different things from different people in terms of role models, I guess, along the way, and the ability to pick those things and see those things makes a difference. But the thread all the way through is they've supported me. And, that's made a huge difference, because when you feel supported, it just grows your confidence to be bolder about the things you do from a development point of view.
Absolutely. And sorry, just one more question, because I'm finding this so fascinating. Did you almost see part of yourself in any of these leaders? Did you feel clearly you had a very strong emotional connection, with the leaders and a great relationship with them. But, we were talking before about kind of importance of role models and seeing people that look or sound or, behave like you do. Was there certain elements from the leaders that inspired you?
Definitely. So either, in terms of background and somebody that, I come from a background, I didn't go to university, and so I look in terms of how I've grown my career. So at times there's been role models in terms of different experiences and backgrounds that I could connect with, and that's made a difference. Going back to anything is possible, certainly working for one of my group HR directors who was female and very impressive. So there's been various times when I've been able to look and say, there is a connection and I can see myself in that person, and if they can do it, why am I not able to do it? So I do think it makes a difference being able to see people that have been successful or been able to achieve different things and to make that connection. And without that, you find you have to ask a lot more questions yourself, and being able to spend time with people that have been able to do that makes a difference.
Makes a really big difference. Well, thank you so much, Zareena, for sharing today. I really appreciate it. I've learned loads of things, actually, so it's been fantastic for me. But thank you very much for welcoming the team and I to the office and to talking about everything that's to come. I'm really excited to see now. So, we'll be keeping an eye on, what's to come from Britvic.
That's great. Thanks, Layla.
Thanks. My name's Layla Mackenzie-Dellis, CEO of DAR Global. It's been fascinating today speaking with Zareena Brown, who is the Chief People Officer for Britvic, and we're here at their headquarters. It's been really fascinating insights from Zareena, not only from a people perspective, and I think what the business is really looking to do and drive forward, but actually they're willing to put the flag in the sand and look at how we can dial things up when it comes to the metrics and what they are portraying to the external world, whilst also really building on individuals' self-confidence when it comes to being able to speak out in a safe and comfortable space. I think a couple of the pieces that really resonated with me about the chat with Zareena are the fact that it's really important to seek allies. Very important to make sure that you are supported by and heeding advice from others who, perhaps are in positions of influence that believe in you. But not only that, but really back yourself, having that confidence and being able to put your head or your hand above the parapet is key, because if you don't have the belief in yourself, really hard, to be able to actually drive forward and make a difference. Thank you so much for watching the Diverse and Inclusive Leaders podcast. Please do feel free to hit the like button below, or if you'd like to receive future notifications, do ping the notification bell here at the side. If you're interested in the audio version only, you can find it on the following streaming platforms. Any extra info and descriptions will be in the links below. Look forward to seeing you soon.